So we have some new info for Christopher Nolan's next film, The Odyssey, as we've got some details on the new IMAX camera being used for the film. The Odyssey recounts the epic 10-year journey of Odysseus, king of Ithaca, as he travels home after the Trojan War, and director Christopher Nolan is aiming to make this his big venture into the fantasy genre. Based on everything that's been said about the film's story and the looks we've gotten during filming, we have to expect that this will be the largest film from the auteur blockbuster filmmaker to date. And the info shared surrounding the new IMAX technology being used seems to be suggesting that Nolan is looking to break ground once again. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing all the details surrounding the new IMAX tech for Nolan's upcoming film, alongside my thoughts towards it. Before I get into it though, if you want to see more content on the director and the Odyssey film, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into the new details for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. So in recent days, the cutting-edge IMAX technology employed by director Christopher Nolan for the Odyssey film has received an update. Ryan Coogler, the director of new hit film Sinners, sought Nolan's advice on incorporating IMAX into his project, leading to both Nolan and his wife Emma Thomas being acknowledged in the film's credits. Coogler has shared further insights, revealing an exciting new sync sound IMAX camera that revolutionises on-set dialogue recording. In a recent episode of the Big Picture podcast, which was shared by Screen Rant, Coogler detailed his use of both IMAX and System 65 cameras in the production of Sinners. Now, one of the main issues with IMAX cameras is their loud operation. They rely on a noisy system, which has traditionally made it difficult to record synchronized sound. And consequently, filmmakers often find themselves needing to re-record actors' dialogue in post-production using ADR for quieter scenes. Christopher Nolan has typically avoided this approach, preferring to use software to minimize the camera noise. And in contrast, Coogler points out that the System 65 he employed for Sinners does not face this challenge, and he spoke a little more about the IMAX being used for Nolan's The Odyssey. He said in his interview, "For this one, I talked to Chris Nolan and Emma Thomas about the format when large format became something that we were discussing and thinking about. Because they had just navigated both camera packages we ended up using, we used different lenses on our System 65 package. We used Ultra Panavision 276 lenses. Nolan basically told me not to be scared and don't let anyone bow down to the camera on set." He acknowledged that it's an intimidating piece of equipment and that he uses a lot of handheld camera work in his history, and those cameras you can't handhold, the sync sound cameras. He continued saying, "The catch of the IMAX camera package is that it is technically not a sync sound camera, whereas the new version Nolan has on the Odyssey is." He said the one that they shot Oppenheimer with is the same one that they shot Dunkirk with, it's the same one they shot the last two Dark Knights with. These cameras are massive cameras that are ripping celluloid through the gate, 15 perfs per picture at 24 pictures per second. So it sounds like somebody took 7 weed whackers and tied them in a steel box and had them going synchronized. So if you're going to shoot an over-the-shoulder dialogue scene, that camera is going to be all over the dialogue. It is automatically going to be ADR. The 5-perf 65mm camera package, the System 65, has 2 sync sound camera bodies. So now when it's rolling, you don't hear anything. But while the integration of sync sound technology in the System 65 offers advantages, it also presents challenges. The filmmaker noted in his interview that the necessary soundproofing to reduce noise has resulted in significantly heavier cameras, restricting their usability during shoots. He said, "Now all of that soundproofing, because the camera's doing a lot of work, makes it insanely heavy. So it becomes a 100-pound camera system with zero ergonomics. So you'd think that it's impossible to handhold the sync sound version of that camera." And Chris Nolan comes from the school that I also come from, the school of whatever works for the scene. So you see some of those movies, he's hand-holding the camera a lot. And when you decide to shoot System 65 and you want a sync sound camera happening, you're not hand-holding that camera. And you ain't steady-camming neither, because it's just way too heavy. You are on sticks, on a crane, or the camera is on the ground. Nolan was acknowledging that there's another version of this camera that is the high-speed System 65 camera. Now this is essentially the same camera without the soundproofing. So now this camera is about £60. That camera can be handheld, that camera can be put on a Steadicam. But then with that, your dialogue with the camera includes ADR immediately, because it's almost as loud as, maybe if not louder than the IMAX camera. So Chris Nolan's advice to me was to use it like a Super 8 camera. He said use it like you would normally use it. So what Ryan Coogler highlighted here was that the new IMAX camera Nolan is using to shoot The Odyssey with is an upgraded sync sound camera. And this ties into my predictions from before, as I said that I thought that Nolan's next IMAX route would be to improve the use of dialogue and functionalities of the camera as best as they could. And it looks like this is exactly what he's aiming to do. One common criticism that often arises is the difficulty in understanding dialogue in his films. I've not been as critical as others have towards this point, but I can understand why some are. This choice stems from Nolan's preference for using the original on-set audio rather than relying on ADR. However, with the introduction of a new sync sound IMAX camera, The Odyssey may alleviate this issue, at least to some extent. As Coogler pointed out, the only downside of this advancement is that the new sync sound model is significantly heavier than the traditional IMAX camera. But when we try to think about what this could improve, Nolan could be enhancing IMAX's performance during more dialogue-focused scenes, potentially revolutionizing how filmmakers utilize the IMAX technology. I think it will be very interesting to see how else this innovative IMAX tech influences The Odyssey, because just with this improvement, it promises more for audiences during the big screen experience. Now, it was reported on about a year ago that Nolan was trying to film The Odyssey with new IMAX tech, and it was said that the new camera is apparently 30% quieter than existing IMAX film cameras. Within that report, it further said that it had enhanced stability and exposure, increased precision and control for even more stunning visuals, and is more lightweight for optimal performance. It was also revealed that it has a brighter viewfinder and brings greater clarity. Furthermore, there's also better on-set playback and versatile connectivity, which helps with live 4K dailies and immediate review of footage in stunning resolution. And finally, that old report noted that the camera has a customizable interface and personalized layouts for director flexibility. So with that in mind and all of the new information that's come out, all of this sounds like a big evolution of the format, and based on the direction it's going in, filmmakers like Nolan could potentially shoot an entire production in IMAX celluloid film, including dialogue-heavy scenes with more clarity. I think it will be interesting to see if that is the case with The Odyssey, and whether Nolan has pushed for these advancements so that he can film the project in such an elevated way. We'll have to see what other groundbreaking technology Nolan is using on the film and how that will translate to screen, but at the minute, the details surrounding the new IMAX tech make it sound very promising. But that was my video discussing the new details for the IMAX camera being used on Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. With all the recent behind the scenes images, set info, and now details on the new IMAX camera, it's making me even more excited when it comes to seeing what Nolan's film will look like on the big screen. What director Ryan Coogler said about the new IMAX technology is very promising to hear, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are more innovations we have yet to hear about based on the specifications listed for the tech. We'll have to see, but any updates we do get surrounding it, I will be covering them here on the channel. But let me know down below in the comment section what you think towards the new details for Nolan's next film, alongside your predictions for what his take on the material might entail. For much more content on Christopher Nolan and his future projects, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.